Hello and welcome to Cloud Insiders, brought to you by Xtravirt, the podcast that brings cloud down to earth. A very warm welcome to you all. Today I am talking to Xtravirt lead consultant Curtis Brown about, well, I don't know. Thanks to being a member of the VMware Expert EUC group, Curtis got invited to a briefing and, well, could you tell us what that was all about?
We live in interesting times. Essentially, the latest announcement from VMware is for a new integrated solution that they're referring to as Anywhere Workspace. A little bit of background to it's probably worth setting the scene. So if you think of it in terms of the last year in particular, of course, has been a lot of challenges for IT, and a lot of IT organizations have had to quickly adapt in some really imaginative and inventive ways of moving their workforce from the office into remote working. And some of those solutions have been, as I say, very creative, not necessarily scaled that well, but often it sacrificed things like security in some instances, sometimes performance, and a lot of places have struggled with scaling as well, to get that to the point where what was a nice to have in terms of a solution for remote working for a small proportion of the workforce all of a sudden had to meet the needs of the majority of the workforce. So you've got this hodgepodge solutions of different moving parts from different vendors that are basically good enough to get working, but not necessarily the way you want to be moving forward.
Yeah.
So VMware's timing on this is actually pretty good. Previously, over previous years, VMware have been looking at a number of different paradigms in some respects. So app and cloud modernization in the data center and even beyond. So a lot of hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, network virtualization products, that sort of thing. A lot of the stuff around Kubernetes and so forth. Moving towards any app in any cloud, that sort of capability. From an EUC digital workspace side, you've got this pulling some of those threads together through Workspace ONE, and the ability to work anywhere, manage devices wherever you locate and so forth. Now, the idea of the Anywhere Workspace is actually to pull together this concept of being able to work anywhere, and that's accepting that in most scenarios we aren't 100% remote and we aren't 100% at work. We're somewhere in between, so we need to support a hybrid work style, something that can do all of the above. And so VMware are effectively looking at this from the point of view of all these different teams have different challenges, have different products, all kind of mesh together. So VMware's approach is that it's to answer this sort of fragmented model of security, complexity, poor experience in some cases. You've got to click on this to run that to get to there. You need to get away from that sort of complexity. It makes it a nightmare to support, so supportability is a factor as well. So hence Anywhere Workspace. Anywhere Workspace is effectively bringing together three products that sit together in the ability of being able to address this anywhere workspace idea.
Yeah.
So on one hand, we've got Workspace ONE, which is already there, and we can deliver the management of end clients, we can deliver identity to users. So we've got that security layer. We can do compliance checking, all that good stuff. The next part of the equation is Carbon Black. Carbon Black is a security solution, so antivirus, anti-malware, all cloud-based, so it can be run from anywhere. From Carbon Black, we then move on to the final part of the trifecta of products. And that's a relatively new one, and that's VMware's Secure Access Service Edge solution.
Okay.
Now, this is the exciting bit, actually. It's network virtualization. Now, it's based upon the VeloCloud software-defined WAN solution. but it's a cloud-based WAN offering. So if you consider that most companies work on the context of if they need to access resources, they often configure clients with VPN solutions that will reach back into the corporate data center and to access on-premises resources. And if they then need to do cloud, they may well have to do split tunneling to be able to branch that networking off. But it all hairpins through the data center.
Yeah.
Now, SASE or SASE? Well, I'd love to find out how it's pronounced.
It's SASE.
SASE.
Yes,
okay.
I did an episode with Tom McVeigh from Menlo, and it is pronounced SASE.
See, these networky people got lovely names for things. So SASE essentially moves that VPN hairpinning, as it were, away from the data center to the cloud. So effectively, you're moving that point of access into the solution, into that point of presence, as it were, into the cloud. Now, beauty of it is being in the cloud. Firstly, you've got this secure aspect of it, but also from a point of presence, there are hundreds of points of presence that are all located around the world. So you as a user can work pretty much anywhere. That could be the office, it could be at home, it could be sitting at the top of Mount Everest, if you've got a good enough link, and basically join that point of presence. And then from the point of presence, you've got this software-defined wide area network gateway into your data center, but more to the point as well, into cloud providers such as AWS, Azure, and SaaS providers such as Office 365. So instead of the hairpin going all the way to your data center and then back out, which of course, that data center, those VPN solutions are your hardware appliances, things can go wrong with it and whatever else. Now we're talking about a cloud solution that's managed by VMware. It's massively resilient and all the rest of it. But also you get the performance aspect. Now by blending these solutions together, Workspace ONE's tunneling technology becomes the endpoint on the client that talks to SASE. So you've got that level covered. Workspace ONE is also managing the configuration of the carbon black endpoint component that's sitting on the device. So the configuration of rules and compliance policy and so forth all integrates between Workspace ONE, carbon black, and the layer for accessing SASE. Now, if you've got SD-WAN appliances that are in your data center, then again, it becomes a point of presence and a connection point into your DC, hence you still get that kind of service as well. So what we're talking about here is a single solution, end to end, that provides the ability to support applications regardless of location in a secure manner, and the ability to manage the endpoints to ensure that the user and the device are compliant.
Beautiful. So yeah, it's wrapping everything that we loved about Workspace ONE and making it even faster, even safer, and kind of taking the pressure off your own data center and moving the presence into the cloud.
I mean, conceptually, it's bringing together almost all the strands that VMware do. So you've got network virtualization, you've got the whole app modernization and data center piece, hybrid cloud, all that jazz, and then the digital workspace element. And let's remember as well, the digital workspace side also brings into the mix the traditional Workspace ONE abilities of integration for single sign-on into SaaS providers, but also on-premises for VDI, or even cloud-based VDI in the sense of either Horizon Cloud on Azure, or Horizon 8 on-prem, or in VMC on AWS or other providers. So you can do desktops, you can do thick applications, published applications. We can throw out native applications down to devices through Workspace ONE. We can provision connectivity and that layer of authentication and trust with your SaaS applications, but you can do it all through a nice secure tunnel using SASE.
Cool.
And on top of that, antivirus and anti-malware cover as well.
Not to be sniffed at. You mentioned at the top that this is kind of born out of the Mod Podge of everything that's been done over the last year. How easy would it be for a company to get involved with this coming in clean?
Well, there would have to be an evolution, but that's not necessarily as painful as would be considered. Because they are separate components, some customers may already have elements of it. So Workspace ONE, for example. So it would be a case of migration from whatever antivirus to Carbon Black, for example. Implementing SASE would be a relatively new thing, but it would be flicking from the existing VPN offering to that and standing that up. So there would be a design process to evolve into it. But at the end of the day, what it does is eliminates the issue of disjointed solutions that don't necessarily fit together that well, that don't necessarily give you that complete end-to-end, but with the added layer of capability that SASE gives you in the cloud as a cloud offering in that sense. But also by virtue of Workspace ONE and the integration between the products, you get this ease of management that at the moment you'd be looking at half a dozen products and half a dozen consoles to achieve. You might be looking at a VPN from one provider, antivirus from another provider. Patching might well be on-prem Microsoft WSUS servers or through the cloud. You might have an MDM solution. You might then have a desktop solution in SCCM as well. You might end up with half a dozen or more different vendors that all work alongside each other, but they're certain you would have to manage them all discreetly and have different skill sets in those areas. This way tries to bring those into one integrated solution.
Okay, so if we can take this down the full way and then back up to a kind of medium level, on the face of it, what would be the impact for end users?
Well, the end user would have a better user experience because they don't necessarily need to have the worry of having to log into their machine, maybe fire up a VPN software that has one account on it, and then try and connect to a service that's got another account. Those sort of things would be dealt with under the hood. So Workspace ONE enrollment on the device means that effectively you've already done your you can control your authentication, and indeed the SASE layer effectively kicks in as soon as you start the device. So that whole tunneling aspect is done for you. That's all done at the back end. So none of that is necessarily an issue. Now there are other solutions that can do, like Microsoft have their own connectivity solution. Be that as it may, the integration here is the key, and that user experience becomes more seamless because we're not having to worry about users having to do different things in different places. They'll have one Workspace ONE catalog, for example. They'll have their SaaS applications and their thick applications. And if they open that SaaS application, or if that thick application has a reach back into the data center, the user doesn't have to worry about, am I on the VPN or not? That's gone. Antivirus configuration to accommodate those applications, well, that's gone. That's not a problem either, because Workspace ONE and Carbon Black are addressing that. Carbon Black being cloud-based, well, my updates are there as well for the antivirus, because, well, that's in the cloud. That's great. So all those sort of elements are now largely taken in to the centralized administration of IT security, IT in general, and moved away as a worry for the user. Complexity goes.
Okay, so essentially, yeah, it's improving the UI, which is just going to make your employers and end users happier, and it's probably going to end up saving you time and therefore upping productivity to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, if we think of it from the point of view of as an integrated solution with less moving parts that are designed to work together from the outset, so compatibility wouldn't be an issue. Immediately, your IT support guys have got less reactive need to support people. If things go wrong, a patch from the antivirus comes out and it breaks the VPN, or VPN comes out and it breaks application X. We should avoid those sort of elements by virtue of having that integration layer to begin with.
Yeah. So if we've kind of spoken about it from a features layer, and we've talked about the end user. So now let's just bring in that central middle layer, benefits from kind of the IT decision maker. Why are they buying into it? Why should they buy into it?
Well, I was kind of alluding to it to some extent a moment ago, because the IT support side of it, because of course it's an integrated solution that essentially deals with the whole lot. IT no longer needs to play whack-a-mole with the users and dealing with lots and lots of problems. So they can all of a sudden be much more efficient in how they work. They're not having to bounce between 10 different solutions to try and resolve a problem. They've got a much more easier support prospect in that sense, which therefore means they can get on with developing the business. By bringing this much more integrated solution together as well, you have enhancements to security, notably in the SASE layer, but also in conjunction with Carbon Black. So bearing in mind the rise in attacks on businesses, you're kind of lightening that load and moving away from that sort of worry. So it means that you can actually get on with being a business.
Okie dokie. So the last one then, because essentially this got announced today. How could people get started? Could they get going on this immediately? When can people start taking advantage of this?
That will depend on a number of factors that have yet to be identified around licensing and whatever else. Some of the products are already there. The individual elements are already available. In some cases, a lot of customers have already got it. So you've got some customers already on Carbon Black. Some customers are already on Workspace ONE. Some customers may even be that bleeding edge, they're on SASE. It's a case of how that will evolve together. And certainly there are some technical elements that would need to be addressed that I imagine will be in upcoming product releases of those products to tighten the integration between them. Notably, there are enhancements coming with respect to the Workspace ONE's Carbon Black integration, in the sense of managing the policies and such through Workspace ONE. And equally, the use of the VMware Workspace ONE tunnel that in the past was used to provide Workspace ONE clients essentially VPN access into the data center. That traditional model, the point of presence was effectively a unified access gateway configured as a tunnel in the data center. Well, that kind of shifts now, so that Workspace ONE tunnel now can be used directed to SASE rather than straight on-prem. So there will be some architectural changes that will need to be done over time. So there would be a design piece, as with all new products as they're integrated.
Okay. And you mentioned that one of the large conversations to be had would be around licensing. If someone listened to this now and just went, well, I can't wait for that, I need it all today, and went out and got themselves each individual component, do you reckon there'd be some relief down the line if they did get wrapped up as some sort of bundle?
That's a commercial question that you would have to speak to your partner company, such as Xtravirt.
Is there anything else you feel you need to add to what this can do, what this can bring to a company, what this can bring to even the IT implementer themselves or IT ops at the end of the day?
Well, I think it's going to remove some headaches. In the sense of having to spin plates looking after multiple solutions from multiple vendors. It's going to simplify the support model in the sense of, rather than dealing with multiple vendors that will often compete and disagree on what's causing the issue, you're centralizing. Now, you could argue, of course, that having different products from different vendors may well have a certain benefit from the point of view of they're less likely to have security vulnerabilities. Some people argue that. I would counter that by saying if you've got a solution that's more integrated from the outset, then that interoperability will provide that inherent security that companies are increasingly needing to have, while also providing the end user with the joined up slick user experience that increasingly users are expecting wherever they work. After all, we now live in a society where somebody with a mobile phone can pretty much pick up their email, do whatever the hell they want. They don't want to have to start this to do that and wave the left leg in the air while they're doing it. They want simplicity, and they get it at home. They click on Netflix and it just works. What they want is the same kind of ease of use with work.
Perfect. Beautiful message. Well delivered. Okay, that's absolutely brilliant. I believe you're writing a blog about this as well, which I think will be released through the Xtravirt website. And if you'd like to catch any other episodes of Cloud Insiders, you can do so by visiting xtravirt.com or going to cloudinsiders.fm. Curtis, thank you so much for speaking to us today. It's been absolutely brilliant.